Okay, we're here. We're alive. Thank you all for joining me today. I wasn't planning on going live. I actually pre-recorded this video already, but I didn't feel like going through the process of having to edit and do all that other stuff. So I said, you know what? Let's just go live and get this out of the way. I'm backed up with a few other videos right now. As you can see, I got a million tabs open on the screen in front of you because I'm just so behind. So we're going to get into this video today and knock it out live. We're going to do this rather quickly. At least I'll try to do it as quickly as possible. And before I also get into this video, I want to say this much, okay? Especially given the title. The title of this video is what? New York's City Council will render the black vote obsolete come December 9th in favor of immigrant voters. Now, whenever or if ever I speak on immigrant issues, I always make sure to put this out there at the forefront. For those of you who don't know, because I know I've gotten a few new subscribers lately, I'm Haitian, okay? Now, I'm first gen born in the United States. So I was born and raised in Chicago, but my family comes from Haiti. The reason that that's important for me to bring that up right now, why it's relevant to the conversation, is because when speaking on immigrant issues and immigrant topics like what I'm going to talk about right now, what tends to happen is that you'll have people hop in the comment section with the typical, oh, you're xenophobic, oh, you hate immigrants. And that simply isn't the case because essentially I'm one of them, right? You're telling me that I hate myself. You're telling me that I hate my family. I'm xenophobic towards my family. Yeah, that doesn't really work over here, right? So, with all that being said, nice try, but all those your xenophobic talking points aren't going to work on this channel with me. So, nice try. Now, how about for those that see the title of this video and get bent out of shape? How about you be honest about the fact that when people immigrate here to America, they look down on Black Americans, specifically the descendants of American slavery. They see them as a people that are beneath them, and they can absolutely care less about any and everything that's going on within their community. Immigrants that come here into this country, they do not come here to be freedom fighters. They don't come here to fight white supremacy. They don't come here to do none of that. They come here in order to assimilate, get in where they fit in, put their head down, be quiet, and do what they got to do to stay in the country. They don't come here to do anything else other than that. All right. But people don't want to be honest about that. They'll just come into a video like this and say, oh, you're xenophobic. But they won't tell the truth about how anti Black a good deal of them actually are. Now that I got that out the way, I want to allow a little bit more time for some people to come into this live stream. So what I want to do is play this video by Dr. Claude Anderson, and it's very relevant to the discussion that we're getting ready to have. It's about 5 minutes long, so let's let some other people come into the live stream while Dr. Claude Anderson does his thing.
But once again, the civil rights movement focused on integration. The civil rights movement said if we can move into their neighborhoods, if we can go to schools with them, if we can sit at the same lunch counters with them, then we'll make the breakthroughs we need to make to end this codified evil called racism.
Because we had been pursuing, since that original mandate in 1638 excluded us, saying Black folks should never enjoy the fruits of white society. That's been locked in our mind to enjoy the fruits of white society. So we want to integrate. But nobody else in this country ever wanted to integrate. What they want to do is assimilate. They've always had the option to assimilate by the second generation.
The difference being
that they can move in and blend in. They can intermarry and blend in. And by the second generation, you can't tell who's who. Or they can have the option of setting up a little Haiti, or a little Havana, or a little Cuba, or a little whatever you want, or a little Italy. But Black folks want to integrate. And integrate killed us for a number of reasons. I'll try to get these points in very quickly. One, first of all, integration is nothing but a new modified form of segregation. Only thing now, you've broken your people down to a smaller unit. You've defied the first premise of power, which is you no longer have numerical power. Now you're in little small groups all around large urban areas. That's point one that's going to knock our brains out. Point two is that the white society maintains what we call a racial balance, or what we call a tipping point, which says that I will accept Black folk primarily at zero, but I will tolerate them anywhere from up to 5 to 8% of any given population. But the minute they cross that 5 to 8% population, it is no longer integration, it's now invasion, and I must take action against it. So I'll either take my kids out of school, put my house up for sale, move my business to the suburbs, or I will resign from the organization, okay? Because I'm not gonna let them get that dominance over me. Third thing that immigration is done for you, it destroyed all your major businesses because they use the highway system to drive expressways right down the center of every black community in this country. And where blacks used to have major business opportunities in the country, they were all destroyed. 4, we find that also we got a major capital drain. There's a basic rule in economics which says you must spend your money in your community and make it bounce 8 to 12 times before it leaves. Black money never bounced 1 time. Black folk have approximately $300 billion passing through our hands annually. Right. That money doesn't even bounce in our communities.
There are other things that you mentioned in the book that are evils to black empowerment. We don't have a lot of time left, but in the closing moments, I just want to throw out some key terms that you express in the book and get your very brief reaction to them. First of all, black empowerment is not the same as empowerment, is it?
No.
Why?
No. Because empowerment, in my definition, means giving people the psychological feeling of competence and ability to compete. Now, keep in mind, I told you back on that public policy, they did just the opposite in the conditioning system, was to tell you that you could never compete with the white society. Right. And that they passed laws that restricted you from competing. And they also, in their conditioning element, they made you see your future and your well-being only through the eyes of the master. Okay? And so when I talk about self-empowerment, I'm talking about how do you get my people to be able to feel self-confident that they can pick up resources and be just as competitive in the other group.
Group economics.
Group economics. We have to start practicing group economics, which means you have to start spending you got to stop the flight of black capital out of this community, out of our communities. Probably what's happening is black folk are spending 95% of our money in the suburbs, okay? And we leave about 3%, 5% in the community. 3% that goes to non-black businesses. Blacks are left with 2% of their annual disposable income. It is humanly impossible for you to live off of 2% of your income. So what happens now is that we've enabled the white community to live off of 2 incomes, to live off of 100% of their income and 95% of blacks' income. Okay, because both the white community and the black community are boycotting black businesses. That is the primary thing that's killing black businesses. It's not the fact that blacks don't know management, don't know cost analysis, accounting, control, or personnel management. It's because both the black and white community are killing black businesses by boycotting them. We also know we don't practice quid pro quo in politics, which means you got to say to your people in an election, what can you do for me, whether you're black or white, if I vote for you? Right. And presently the system is that since black folk are subordinate to and excluded from the system, we can only do what's mainstream. And if they do what's mainstream, nothing's going to happen for black folk.
Blacks must reach a point of self-determination by the year 2015 in your analysis.
That's right.
Why?
Why? Because at that time, about 7, 8 major things is going to wipe us out if we don't do something very quickly by getting some power and wealth, rebuilding our communities and being competitive. 1, we anticipate in the next by the year 2013, approximately 8 to 6 million Hispanics entering this country and 4 to 1 million Asians. We have been the number 2 population in this country now for approximately 400 years. We're going to be pushed from number 2 down to number 4. Okay. Now, if you didn't get anything for 400 years when you're number 2, you figure what you're going to get when you become number 4. You're not going to be. You're going to have to now speak through 2 other groups. Secondly, crime is going to be a cold word for blacks. Blacks are going to be further criminalized than they are now. Next thing's going to happen to black folk, going to be forced into what we call New World Order. We're going to compete with groups all over the world that we're totally ill-equipped to compete with. But let me get to one other point very quickly.
Right.
Let me skip off that second.
Very quickly.
So, because one of the things I want blacks to also focus on is civil rights. You missed that question about civil rights.
Right.
We got to get away from civil rights because that's not the major issue. Civil rights won't give you any power. Neither will integration, because black folk have been so psychologically, so politically, and so economically damaged, Daryl, by 400 years of deprivation and exploitation, that civil rights and integration won't even reach us. We can't be reached by it. We can't be, it do nothing for us. As a matter of fact, even if you're going to talk about civil rights, then switch it. Instead of talking about, look, gays talk about gay rights, handicaps, handicap rights, females, feminist rights, veterans, veteran rights. Right. And when you get to black folk, why do you talk about civil rights? I don't know any blacks named civil. Talk about black rights. Okay. Instead of talking about social integration, talk about economic integration.
The book is Black Labor, White Wealth, The Search for Power and Economic Justice. Claude Anderson, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Daryl, for having me.
And of course, you are watching Detroit Black Journal.
Okay, so that was great. Dr. Claude Anderson doing his thing. And there's actually a lot to unpack in what he was saying. I'm not going to do that right now. I might reserve that for me and Rob on a later episode of Just Talking. But let's come, let me get myself together and let's get into the conversation that needs to be had concerning what's happening in New York right now with the black vote. Okay. Now, one thing that I found that's very interesting that kind of dawned on me as I was preparing for this live stream is that on one side of the spectrum, concerning Republicans, right? You have those on the Republican side that are essentially, at least as we're being told by the media, they're trying to restrict the ability for us to vote, right? They're saying these are Jim Crow voting laws, and they're trying to restrict Black folks and people of color their ability to vote. But what's interesting, specifically as it pertains to Black America, is that on the Democratic side, they're not attempting to restrict our ability to vote. They're just trying to drown the vote out completely, to make our votes completely irrelevant. So whether you vote or you choose to stand by your principles of no tangibles, no vote, it won't matter to us, because you will have become completely obsolete and drowned out by all of those non-citizens who have the right to vote now. So with all that being said, let's really dive deep into what I want to discuss, okay? Give me just a second while this cop car goes by. Okay. Now, all this past year, right, in my videos, particularly in my live streams with Rob titled, Just Talking, we've emphasized heavily, right, on the importance of voting locally and how local politics is really a lot more important than national politics, right? Now, don't get me wrong, getting sellouts like Jim Clyburn out of office, that is a very tall mountain to climb. And I'm not saying that it's a mountain that shouldn't be climbed, but it is a very tall one to do, right? But with that being said, when we're talking about things like taking over city council, that's a tall hill. That's very, very doable, right? Now, it won't be easy, but it is doable, right? So we've stressed so much on local politics here on this channel, and you're going to see as I go into this article that I'll pull up in front of you right now, how serious local politics actually is, because local politics is what's doing this to you in New York, right? Not federal, not Kamala Harris, not Joe Biden. Local politics in New York is about to knock you out the box, okay? Now, the second biggest thing that I emphasized on this channel all this year is the talking point of mine where I stress that, by 2030, the Black Americans will be politically irrelevant, right? And that's primarily due to what? Immigration, right? Biden's attempt to apply fast track to citizenship for undocumented immigrants is going to knock you out the box politically as well. Now, in short, concerning my 2030 estimation, by 2030, right, after Biden implements his fast track to citizenship, essentially what happens is this: after 2030, every year after that, the number of those who went from undocumented to citizens is going to go up by leaps and bounds. And that population number, primarily for Hispanics, is going to skyrocket, but it will also be for the AAPI community as well. Once that happens, you'll no longer be in control of your local politics anymore. Forget about federal. We're just talking about what's happening locally. You won't be in control anymore. Currently, as we speak, there are numerous cities, states, counties, and wards that Black America still have strong enough numbers in to completely take over in order to attain the resources that you need for your community, right? And particularly for the city that you live in. But once Biden's fast track to citizenship is implemented, all that essentially is going to go out the window, right? Because, like I said, after 2030, every year after that, the population numbers of undocumented immigrants going from that to citizens is going to just bump up, boom, 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 boom. And now politically, you will be completely drowned out. And at that point, all you can really do is go along to get along, because your votes won't mean anything. Now, what I want to do is let's get into this article right now. And it's from the New York Times. It's titled, "New York Moves to Allow 800,000 Non-Citizens to Vote in Local Elections." Okay, so let's get into this article. For decades, lawmakers and immigrant advocates in New York City have pushed for legislation that will allow legal residents who are not citizens to vote in municipal elections, a right they had in school board elections until the boards were abolished in the early 2000s. New York City lawmakers are moving to make non-citizen voting a reality over the objections of Mayor Bill de Blasio. Now, I have him highlighted in blue for a reason, but we're going to get back to that, okay? But pay attention here. The city council, local politics, everybody, the city council is planning to approve a bill that will allow more than 800,000 non-citizen New Yorkers to register as members of political parties and vote in municipal elections, provided they are green card holders or have the right to work in the United States. The measure is expected to be approved by December 9th by a veto-proof margin. Okay? So I have that highlighted in blue because I want to stress and highlight the importance of local politics. Okay. They have a veto proof margin over there. So it's this is happening. This isn't something that you're going to be able to fight against. To a degree. You can. And we're going to get into that also into this article. It can be, there can be pushback. But my point is that this is local politics at work right now. Okay. So don't tell me that that's not important, because it's, by the looks of this, is a lot more important than federal. But let's carry on with this article. It will allow non-citizens to vote in local elections and would not apply to federal or state contests. But the measure raises long-standing questions about who should be allowed to participate in the country's democratic process. Now, they're telling you right now that it's not for federal and state contests. That's only a matter of time, okay? It's only a matter of time till that's the case. These are just the beginning phases of being able to allow non-citizens the ability to vote in state and federal elections, right? Now, let's keep going. Mr. de Blasio, speaking at a news conference on Tuesday, said he would not veto the legislation, but he expressed concern that the bill would undermine the value of citizenship if it is, if it dissuaded residents from seeking it. Mr. de Blasio, a Democrat, also said he believes only the state legislature can grant non-citizens the right to vote, a view many experts dispute. Now, like you saw earlier, I had Mayor de Blasio highlighted in blue, and we're here at what I want to talk about. I don't want anybody to be fooled with Mayor de Blasio apparently supposedly being against this bill, right? That he's not going to veto. Now, mind you, Mayor de Blasio is on his way out of office, all right? He's on his way out of office. He's not going to be the mayor anymore come January 1st of 2022. So if you're against the legislation, why don't you veto it, right? What's the problem? Well, the issue is this. Mayor de Blasio is D1, Democratic first, right? Or Democrat first, I should say. That's what he is. So regardless of how he may personally feel about the legislation, he might actually genuinely feel and disagree with allowing non-citizens the right to vote in New York. But what he's not going to do is go against the values of his party and go against the plan of his party and what they want to do. So how he feels is irrelevant. He's following the party lines of making sure that non-citizens will have the right to vote. Okay. And if he wants to keep having a career in politics after this, he needs to fall in line, period. So that's why he's not going to veto it, despite the fact that he's on his way out of office come January 1st of next year. You know, he wants to stay in good standings with the Democratic Party. So let's carry on. Voters in Alabama, Colorado, and Florida passed ballot measures last year stipulating that only U.S. citizens could vote, joining Arizona and North Dakota in specifying that non-citizens could not vote in state and local elections. Okay. On the other side of the issue, several towns in Maryland and Vermont already grant non-citizens some municipal voting rights, and non-citizens can vote in school board elections in San Francisco. Other municipalities in California, Maine, Illinois, and Massachusetts are weighing similar legislation. Now, mind you, all those states that I just read off to you, those are all blue states. Those are all the Democrats. Okay. So on one hand, you got Republicans, like I said earlier, they are trying to suppress your ability to vote. Excuse me. Apparently, they're trying to suppress your ability to vote. But on the other hand, concerning the Democratic Party, they're trying to drown you out. All those states that I just read were Democrat controlled states. All right. So let's carry on. In the so-called blue states, we are moving toward expansion, and that includes expansion of non-citizen voting, said Joshua A. Douglas, a professor at the University of Kentucky J. David Rosenberg College of Law, who studies voting rights and election law. In the so-called red places, we're moving toward more constrictions on the right to vote, which includes non-citizens. The whole world of voting rights has become one that is more polarized, even more than normal. At a rally outside of City Hall, at a rally outside City Hall on Tuesday, supporters of the bill hugged, choked back tears, and chanted, "Yes, yes, we can," in Spanish. I'm going to read that again. At a rally outside City Hall on Tuesday, supporters of the bill hugged, choked back tears, and chanted, "Yes, we can," in Spanish, as they shared stories of legal residents who felt left out of having a say over the city's services that their tax dollars help finance. It's important for the Democratic Party to look at New York City and see that when voting rights are being attacked, we are expanding voter participation, said Yandes Rodriguez, a councilman who is the bill's prime sponsor and represents Washington Heights and Upper Manhattan. Mr. Rodriguez is a former green card holder from the Dominican Republic who became a citizen in 2000. So essentially, in that quote on the last paragraph, they're telling you, okay, if the Republicans want to restrict voting, what we're going to do is expand it. None of this on either side helps Black Americans. It all hurts you. Okay. So this is what we're going to have to figure out here. Let's keep going. Scroll down a little bit more, and we're going to wrap this thing up pretty soon. The latest iteration of New York City's bill also extends the vote to people with work authorization, such as so-called dreamers, immigrants who were brought into the country illegally as children, but have been allowed to live and work through a federal program known as DACA. Of the estimated 808,000 adult New Yorkers who are lawful permanent residents or green card holders or have work authorization, about 130,000 are from the Dominican Republic. Another 117,500 are from China, according to the mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. The bill requires that immigrants be residents of New York City for 30 days and others eligible to vote under the law. So you only have to be a resident for 30 days to be able to vote in New York's local elections. To me, that's crazy. Only 30 days, that's it. So you just got here. You just got to the country, and a month in, I can expect you to, when you cast your vote against my best interest. Because like I said, when immigrants come into the country, they don't come here to be freedom fighters. They don't come here to be revolutionaries. They don't come here to make some big old change, right? When they come here, they come in to what? Assimilate and get in where they fit in. That's it. So when it comes to all this other stuff concerning reparations and the Black agenda and so on and so forth, they could completely care less about all that, especially given the fact that they can't get anything out of it. Now, mind you, we're talking about an individual who's only been here 30 days. 30 days from coming into this country, they already can vote in New York City local election. That's wild to me. That's crazy. Let's keep going. In spite of having a veto-proof majority of 34 out of 51 city council members and the public advocate as co-sponsors, the legislation has not moved forward until now, partially because of concerns about legality. But the council's legal staff determined that no federal or state law bars New York City from expanding the right to vote in local elections, though it is also concluded that the bill might be vulnerable to challenge. Any restrictions that are currently on the books rely on let me read that again. Any restrictions that are currently on the books really only apply to federal and state elections, said Anu Joshi, the vice president of policy at the New York City Immigration Coalition, an umbrella organization that represents hundreds of community-based immigrant and refugee groups. But Ron Hyduck, a professor of politics at San Francisco State University and the author of Democracy for All: Restoring Immigrant Voting Rights in the U.S., said he anticipated the new law would spark a legal battle, given that there are legal challenges in other places like Vermont, and these immigration, excuse me, and that because immigration is such a hot button issue, I can't imagine that there wouldn't be legal challenges in New York, he said. Eric Adams, now this is New York City's new mayor, Eric Adams, right? Eric Adams, the mayor-elect, has said that green card holders should have the right to participate in local elections and even urge the passage of the city council legislation. So what's interesting is that Mayor de Blasio, apparently he wasn't with it, but now you have Eric Adams, who is the new mayor-elect. He's 100% in support of this. So once again, when we're talking about the Democratic Party, man, you're really just voting against your own interests consistently when you vote for them blindly, and not strongly asking and demanding anything in return for the vote, right? Eric Adams is an example of, in New York, blindly voting for the Democratic Party and falling under the assumption that all skin folk are kinfolk. No, they're not. Eric Adams hopped right into office, or he will hop right into office January 1st in New York. And the first thing he's going to do is fall in line with the Democratic Party and what they want to do concerning drowning your political voice out and making sure that your vote doesn't matter. He's falling right in line, period. Okay? So with all that being said, that's going to do it for today's video. I just wanted to bring this to you very briefly. I'll make sure, matter of fact, let me put the link. Let me grab the link for this and I'll put it in the live chat. And for those of you that are watching this on the replay, I will make sure to put it in the description box below. But this is what's happening in New York right now, man. And this just goes to show how strong local politics and how important and serious local politics actually is. A lot of times I've brought that up. People kind of mock, they scoff, they go, if politics were going to work or if voting was going to work, it would have worked already. Why is it that local politics is working for everybody else and not for us? That's what I'll ask for you. That's my question back to you. For those of you who are naysayers concerning, voting and local politics and organizing to make sure that we take hold of city council. How come it works for everybody else and not for you? My answer to that question is because other people, especially right now, appear to be out organizing us, okay? And they understand the importance of local politics, while too many of us have a kind of more of a cynical view towards it. Now it's understandably so, I get it, but we're going to have to get over that and get serious about local politics, because once again, it's local politics that is getting ready to knock New York Black voters out the box come December 9th, okay? So I left the link to this article in the live chat. Thank you for tuning into today's live video. I will catch you guys on the next go around. Have a great day. Peace.